Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey is always top shelf. Whether you got your start as a Dynasty veteran, a Millbury survivor, or you were born into the Church of Trotz, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, here are your eclectic hosts, Sean Cuthbert and Christian Arnold.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Night in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Sunday, May 9th, 2021. Coming at you live from the Hockey Night New York studios on Long Island. Another amazing show coming up for you tonight. Brian Compton of NHL.com will be joining us. My name is Sean Cuthbert. With me, as always, is Mr. Christian Arnold. Christian, happy Mother's Day.
Well, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
And all the mothers out there. Yeah, you're not a mom.
Yeah, I'm not
but,
a mom.
you know, we're getting in the spirit.
The thought was nice.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How can I not be doing well? We're some short period of time away from playoff hockey, and
That's right.
our buddy Brian Compton's going to be on the show. And,
Yes.
and boy, did it pain me to say the words "my buddy" and Brian Compton in the
He's
same
your
sentence.
buddy. It's okay to say it. He's
know
your
about
buddy.
that.
He's my buddy, too. We love B-Comp. Excited to talk to him.
Yes.
Yes, that's right, folks. We got one game left, and then the playoffs are coming. And we're going to dive into that, but I'm going to tell you about our sponsors first.
And then we'll dive into that.
Exactly. So we're very happy to be sponsored by Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington. Head on over for great food, great people, and great service. Check out the menu at BlueLineDeli.com. We are also thrilled to be sponsored by Thai Technology, a voice-over IP company providing phone services for businesses across the country. If you're tired of dealing with long hold times and the impersonal service of companies like Spectrum, Optimum, and Verizon, give Thai Technology a call at 516-856-7800 for 3 free months of service. And we are also very happy now to be sponsored by Manscaped, brand new sponsor. Support for Hockey Night in New York is brought to you by Manscaped, the men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched the 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. That's right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with the exclusive offer just for you, 20% off, plus free shipping worldwide with promo code HockeyNightNY at Manscaped.com. And if you're watching us right now, it's right up there at the top of your screen. Get the grooming going. Let's go. Chris, you got anything to say about that?
I do not, nor should I.
Sure?
I feel like that's just
Okay.
we're asking for trouble.
Okay, fair enough. Well, brand new sponsor. We're excited about it. We're happy about it. We'll be talking about it a little more later on.
We're trying to keep the show on the rails for the first 5 minutes at least.
Yeah, we'll get to the rest of it later on. So with all of that out of the way, Christian, we're looking at this week that we just had, and it also wasn't the best one for the Islanders. They lost to a goalie previously with only ECHL experience.
Yes. Oh, no, he played in the AHL a little bit.
Did he? I thought it was
Yeah.
just ECHL.
No, I think the highest he played was the AHL.
Well, I like to make stuff up here at Hockey Night
But
New
the
York,
last
so
game
that's why we have Christian.
last professional game he had played in was for the ECHL.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
That makes more sense. See, I got it wrong, but that's why you're here.
But you're not
to correct.
wrong. You're in the realm.
Okay.
Just,
So they lost to him.
Yes.
Playing against the Sabres.
Actually, it's funny. I saw Donnie that day, and he goes, "They're gonna lose 2-0. They're gonna lose 2-0, and they didn't lose 2-0.
Islander fans do seem to be very conscious and aware of this. You know, when the new guy comes from the other team,
But it
it's
always
a
happens, so it
loss.
kind of makes sense why
Right.
people are so ingrained
Yeah.
in their heads to do it.
I get it. So that happened.
I said they would beat them by 6-0, and I was also wrong. So it was.
Our predictions were a little off.
Yeah.
From
Yeah,
last
they were-
week. Yeah,
they
we
were
were
not
we were very glass half full. In fact, we had the whole glass filled to the tippy top. And it did not go that way at all.
That'll teach us to be optimistic.
Right. Seriously, we got to give Andy a call to
Apologize.
bring us down a notch. Yeah, that too. But yeah, then they get the 2-1 loss to Jersey on home ice Thursday. Some boo birds from the crowd. And then they blasted Jersey out for the final regular season game at the Coliseum. Well, we think
maybe we'll see.
Last night, 5-1. So
Well, let's remember that when they're playing in October there.
well, tell us, Christian, what do you say, CA?
Well, obviously it was a rough week for the Islanders, losing to the Buffalo Sabres twice, the New Jersey Devils once, finally getting that monkey off their back offensively with Barzal scoring, Jordan Eberle scoring, Kyle Palmieri might be the most important person on that roster right now getting going. And that was probably his best game as an Islander. You looked at the way he was playing, and he was playing confidently. He was playing aggressively. He was playing, as Barry Trotz said, with an edge. And he got a goal, a pretty aggressive goal nonetheless, too. And he looked good with the Oliver Wahlstrom, John Gabriel Pajot line there. And it's certainly perhaps maybe where he's best suited. And all these calls for him to be on the top line, maybe we're all wrong. Maybe that's exactly where he needs to be in playing his best hockey. Because when you think about where he's played well, I feel like the best games we've seen him in have been with Pajot and with Wahlstrom.
Yeah, and I think that'll benefit those guys as well, Pajot and one, because, and I'm sure Barry's thinking about this too, he needs to have some set lines going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you don't want to be juggling around for game one. So maybe that's what we see. And yeah, I mean, we were kind of, or at least I can speak for myself here and say we were kind of campaigning for Palmieri to get a look.
I wrote a whole story about it, so I mean, I'm not one to talk either.
Right. And he got a little bit of a taste, but I think the main reason why ourselves and also, fans in Islander country were calling for it, because everybody just wants to see him get going.
Right.
Like, I don't care if he's playing with Pajot or if he's playing with Barzal, as long as there's production. As long as there's numbers going on the board. Whether Palmieri's assisting on Pajot's goals or scoring off of, feeds from Pajot, it doesn't matter to me. As long as they're scoring more goals than the opposition.
Well, it was a Wahlstrom feed that he scored off of. It was a flip pass from Oliver Wahlstrom.
Oh, no, I'm just saying generally. But yes. But, look, I don't care where the goals are coming from as long as they're scoring more than the other team. So if the New York Islanders
ultimately,
that's
trust, what hockey and sports are about. It's putting up more points than the other team.
It's true, and I would like to see the Islanders do that more against their opponents.
Especially teams like Buffalo and New Jersey.
Yeah, well, that's all behind us now. The season series against Buffalo's over. It's over against Jersey, and they didn't end it very well. But Barry Trotz doesn't seem to care. He seemed to be like, you know what? We're just kind of figuring things out right now. He said maybe we'll put the pedal on tomorrow if the game means something. It looks like it will if they have any sort of desire to finish third instead of fourth.
Right.
I don't know. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, whether the Islanders look at the potential matchups between the Pens and the Caps, and, I mean, to a much lesser extent, Boston. I think they still have a chance at 2 if they win out. But at the end of the day, I don't know if the Islanders are looking at this and saying, yeah, we'd rather have one team over another, or we just want to finish as high as we can.
I think the main goal at this point is just to finish out healthy, get all of their ducks in a row, and make sure, as Barry Trotz has said on a number of occasions, that he doesn't necessarily look at the results, but how the team is playing and their style and their effort and certain details of their game. One of his favorite words, is always detail in someone's game. When he's talking about Wahlstrom or he's talking about Palmieri. He talks about the detail in their game, and he likes to see it. So I think that's really, at the end of the day, what he's looking for.
Yeah.
I think that he kind of, I don't want to say he resigned himself, but there was an understanding that by Thursday, the Islanders were basically locked up where they were locked up. And that if they finish third, if they finish fourth, it's not going to matter. It's not going to make much of a difference. They're playing a good team once they get to the playoffs. And their ultimate goal is just to make sure that their side, their game, is ready when they hit the playoffs.
Right, and we called this week the battle for home ice last week, and it wasn't much of a battle at all.
It was not.
They fell on their faces pretty quickly. The natives were getting a little restless with the results against Buffalo, and rightfully so. They're the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
And also because, I mean, they kind of picked that up from playing 500 hockey previously. They had the 2 big wins against the Rangers, but outside of that, I mean, again, we had the all-time negative Hockey Night New York episode last week, and just talking about how they really haven't looked like the team that they were previous to the trade deadline. Right. But again, I mean, I said it on Twitter the other day, as long as they look like that team for game 1, that's all that matters. Home ice would have been nice. A banner would have been nice. I mean, it's been ages since they got to put anything up in the rafters aside from a retired jersey here or there, right? I mean, it'd be nice to see some new achievements there. It doesn't mean anything, though. It's all about the chalice at the end of the playoffs. So as long as they're ready to go and they can take four games starting on the road, that's all that matters. So be ready for game 1, work out your kinks, and, hopefully they win some games.
And I think that, understandably, there's a certain amount of concern up until Saturday when you saw them kind of return to form, so to speak, where you had all these different guys get going. Brock Nelson scoring his first double-digit goal in about a month. Like I said, Barzal scoring for the first time in what felt like forever. Jordan Eberle scoring for the first time in what felt like forever. Kyle Palmieri finally getting back on the scoreboard for the Islanders.
Encouraging.
An effort that was really seemingly outside of what was interesting, I will say, what looked to be excuse me, what looked to be a more 60-minute effort than we've seen in quite a while. Barry Trotz still kind of spoke about after the game his disappointment, I guess you could say, about how the Islanders kind of got away from their game after they got to 5-1, which is interesting, which is kind of the Barryisms that we've seen during the course of the regular season, where even though they look like they're playing phenomenally, he kind of tries to humble the group a little bit and make sure that they don't get too far ahead of themselves and kind of not nitpicking, but picking up on different points that still need to be improved on even when the team is going well. So even that maybe is a bit of an encouraging sign, because you're realizing now that Barry's seeing, at least from where I'm sitting, Barry's seeing the team get back to performing where they had been beforehand, and now he's kind of getting back into his old ways and that comfortability to still kind of nitpick at certain things while knowing that his club is in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, Barry is pretty much Joe Cool when he gets up there for his press conferences.
Yeah.
He's got it together, win or lose. He doesn't get too high, get too low. So if you see him looking concerned or emotional, then you know there's a problem. So the fact that he seems okay with where they're at, and he's glad that, they've been healthy up until this point for the most part. I mean, obviously without the big guy, the captain, Anders Lee, but everybody else has been able to still stay remotely healthy. So if he's feeling good, I'm feeling better about it, and we're still waiting to see whether or not they're going to have a break, I think. Has there been any update on what's going on with the playoffs?
Well, we know they'll probably be at least a week. I know people are asking in the chat already. I've also heard, I know someone said he heard Saturday, Sunday, he or she have heard Saturday or Sunday as a start. I've also heard that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but there are a lot of different variables. And, if the NHL does start, let's say they start before the North Division finishes, that the first round, I would have to imagine, is going to be the breakup between games. I would have to imagine would be longer than usual to try and make sure that everyone catches up at the right time. But
right, because
it's all fluid.
Right, because whether you have a break now or later, there's going to be a break somewhere. Right. Because if they finish the games, they're still waiting for them to catch up.
You just try and slow down the series. Like you play game one, let's say Saturday. Do you hold off and wait to play, game two for the Islanders on like a Monday or Tuesday and give them a couple days in between?
Yeah, well, glad it's not my job to figure that out.
Thank God.
The NHL sorted out. I'm sure it'll all be fine. But, folks, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. Welcome to the chat. Thank you so much for joining us here. And, of course, at your favorite podcast providers, we're going to take a break because our pal, Brian Compton from NHL.com, is going to join us. We'll be right back.
Service is the backbone of any great business, and reliable telecommunication is essential to keeping your client base happy. Introducing Ty Technology, a low-cost, flexible internet phone service founded on the idea that every customer deserves exceptional service while providing simple setup and management and easy integration to clients across the country. Ty Technology will not only create a custom solution tailored to your specific needs, but will partner with you to provide a competitive edge to you and your clients. And if you need support, you won't be routed to an automated call center in another country. You'll get a live representative that had a personal hand in building your account. So Islander fans, if your business is looking for a change from companies like Spectrum, Verizon, or Optimum, Ty Technology is offering 3 free months of service for any of its affordable packages. Just call 516-856-7800. That's 516-856-7800, or visit them on the web at TieTechnology.com. That's Tie, T-I-E Technology.com. Tie Technology, the right choice for your internet phone service.
The only thing better than a great Long Island deli is a great Long Island deli run by die-hard Islander fans. Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington, will make any Islander fan feel right at home with its familiar blue and orange theme and Isles decor. Blue Line Deli and Bagels proudly serves Bagel Boss bagels, along with breakfast favorites, hockey-themed heroes, quesadillas, salads, fresh-made smoothies, and much more. So stop on in for delicious food, a clean atmosphere, and a happy staff ready to greet you with friendly service no matter what team you support. Want to place an order for pickup? Call 631-944-3222 or visit BlueLineDeli.com to check out the menu and order online. Blue Line Deli and Bagels, where the great selections will have you saying, yes, yes, yes.
Hope you enjoyed the ads. Now let's get back to Hockey Night in New York with Sean Cuthbert and Christian Arnold.
That's right, this is Hockey Night in New York, and of course it's that time of the show when we go on the line, brought to you by our friends over at Ty Technology. And on the line with us is our quote-unquote friend, Brian Compton from NHL.com.
Unbelievable.
Known for the B-Comp-Q at Blue Line Deli and
That's right.
an Islander expert extraordinaire. Brian, what's going on, buddy? I made it nicer at the end.
I'm doing all right. How are you guys?
Doing great, pal. Good to have you on.
Mother's Day to all the ladies.
Happy Mother's Day. And, hey, thanks for joining us on this special holiday. Hope the missus had a nice Mother's Day.
You know what, Shawnee? I called it, too. She's actually snoring as we speak. I told you that.
Amazing.
She had a very good day, though.
Awesome. Glad to hear
Well,
it.
she earned it. Absolutely. I mean, she puts up with you every day. She earned it nonetheless.
Fair.
I think that is.
She is a saint. No doubt about that.
Brian, obviously a lot to talk about with the New York Islanders as far as their push to the playoffs. Not a great week in terms of getting home ice and finishing strong here heading into the postseason, but a big win in the sense of the players that got going last night against New Jersey, including Kyle Palmieri. And I want to start there with how important it was for Palmieri to kind of have the game that he did last night and perform the way he did, to get the goal, obviously his first in I think about 12 or 13 games there since his last goal against the New York Rangers last month. But how important was it for him to finally get going, especially in that game with only 2 regular season games to go?
Yeah, it was huge. They really need him to get going in the worst way. And he had a couple of chances Thursday night, even though that game just had a preseason feel from opening faceoff. But to see him get one last night was enormous. Not just him. I mean, Brock, Eberle. I mean, they need these guys to produce in the playoffs because I think defensively, there's been some hiccups over the past few games for sure. Aside from last night when I thought that they were really good from opening faceoff, but they need these guys to produce offensively in the playoffs if they're going to have any hope of advancing past the first round.
No question about it, Brian. And speaking of the playoffs, we were just talking about it before you came on, the fact that if the Islanders had any chance to get home ice, they kind of blew it right in the early going this past week, and that's no longer on the table. They're going to finish 3 or 4. And you just look at how good they were at home this season, and Christian and I have had a couple of back and forths over that throughout the year. Is this going to be a problem? It seems like Barry Trotz isn't so worried about things. He just wants the team ready to go. Is losing out on home ice going to be an issue for them heading into round 1?
Well, I think it hurts because they've been so good at home from the start of the season, and they really haven't been good on the road at all. I mean, what are they, 11 of 27? I mean, that's not going to cut it in the playoffs, that's right, for sure. So they play a style that will benefit them regardless of the venue, but they're certainly going to have to be better on the road in the playoffs if they're going to have any success whatsoever. It's been really perplexing because they've been dynamite at the Coliseum, but they've certainly got to figure some things out on the road if they're going to have any playoff success.
The NHL relaxing some of their COVID restrictions as far as the playoff teams that are, I think it's 85% vaccinated, and I believe according to Barry Trotz, the Islanders will meet that threshold. Obviously, one of the things we've heard a lot from Barry Trotz during the course of the season about some of these road woes from the Islanders has been kind of the restrictions that they have on the road and kind of the limited things that they can do and how that impacts them when they hit the ice. In your mind at least, does the change in COVID restrictions maybe help them be a bit better or more comfortable on the road with a little bit more freedom that the league is now allowing them?
Yeah, it can't hurt. I mean, you think of last year, in the bubble when they were basically going to the rink and in the hotel otherwise doing the ping pong tournaments and everything else to just keep their sanity. I mean, this is going to be enormous, not just for the Islanders, for all the teams that meet that threshold, Christian, because I say this all the time, these guys are human beings too. And I know that they make a lot more money than we do. I get that part of it. I'm not their accountants, but I'm sure that their bank accounts look way better than mine does. But the fact that they haven't gotten to do a whole lot, even throughout the course of this season, it's tough. It's tough on everybody. It's tough on them and their families, their wives and, young kids. Some of these guys have young kids. So to be able to do a little bit more on the road in the playoffs, regardless of the city that they're going to play in. It looks like Pittsburgh, but we'll see how it shakes out. It's going to be huge for them, no question.
Talking with Brian Compton on the line here, brought to you by our friends over at Ty Technology. B-Comp, obviously, there's still a chance the Islanders do move up one position in the East Division. That would be the third. But if they win out tomorrow against the Bruins, and I think the Bruins would have to lose their last game of the regular season, if I'm not mistaken. At this point, how much of a difference does that make for the Islanders going into the postseason? Is there really a big difference between third and fourth at this point?
Well, the only way it really makes a difference, Christian, is if they finish third and then they play the Bruins in the second round of the playoffs. Other than that, there's really not that big of a difference here. And then you would have home ice in the next round. That would be enormous, obviously, but it's just given the disparity in their record at home and on the road. But other than that, I mean, you guys know this. The division has been dynamite since the start of the year. There's so much parity, so much talent. They're going to have their work cut out for them regardless of who they play. I think they know that.
For sure, Brian. And Christian and I discussed this a little bit as well before you came on, and there's still a little bit of uncertainty as to when the puck's actually going to drop on game one, whether the Islanders are going to have maybe a little bit of a break, maybe a little more of an extended break. Is that something that now obviously it's not going to be nearly as long as the break they ended up having last year and the way they were just able to change gears and look like a completely different team when they came into the playoffs in the bubble last year? Is this something that they might be able to benefit from, maybe with, just some extra practice time, maybe get Palmieri, worked into the power play a little bit more, just things that they can work on that they really haven't been just with this tight squeeze schedule? And, maybe not only do we see Palmieri factor into things a little bit more for the playoffs, but just the team looking more like themselves prior to the trade deadline.
Yeah, it's going to be huge, Shawnee. I can't imagine that they're going to have at least 3 days of practice. So they'll have another day off, probably Tuesday, and then at least 3 days of practice. Will they play Saturday? I don't know, but I think that's the earliest that they would play again. So to have that practice time to not only work on special teams, I mean, the power play clearly still needs a little bit of work, but just to give Barry time to figure out who's going to play with who. Because we really still don't know. I mean, he's tried different things. A lot of it really hasn't worked out the way that he would hoped. I know fans don't want to hear this, but I would be floored if Leo Komarov is not on that top line for game one, because you know what you're getting from Leo. And for whatever reason, even if they're not scoring goals at the rate that everybody wants those three guys to score goals, 5-on-5 defensively, they're really, really good. And that's what's most important to Barry Trotz. He is way more keen on keeping the puck out of his own net than trying to win game 7-6.
You mentioned that defensive game, and I think one thing that people have constantly asked during the course of the regular season, even now in our chat, has been about Scott Mayfield. And obviously, I think Mayfield would even be the first to admit it. He's struggled at times during the course of this season. And while the numbers don't necessarily reflect some of the criticisms of Mayfield, there's no doubt that there's been moments where his play has cost the Islanders at times. But the question I guess everyone kind of always asks is, why is there a reluctance, not only just with Mayfield, but the Leo Komarovs and some of these other players, for Barry not to pull them out of the lineup compared to a Wahlstrom or someone else who maybe is given a shorter leash?
Well, I think with Mayfield in particular, he's not going to come out because he's such an important part of the penalty kill. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, the PK has been pretty good, right? So, I mean, if you take Mayfield out, who's going to go in? Honestly, on that right side, you have, Braden Coburn or Thomas Hickey, but I don't think that's going to be the case. And to be honest, to stick on defense for a second, guys, I kind of expected more from Noah Dobson at this stage of the game. He had some pretty good glimpses at the start. But I don't think he's evolved the way that Barry Trotz or Lou Lamoriello or anybody in the front office would have liked. I'm not saying that he's not going to be the guy that they're hoping for. I think he still will be. But I think they need more from him come playoff time. And I don't know if he would necessarily come out. But we know how Barry is with the younger players. If you're not going to do what he's asking of you, the leash is much shorter than with a guy like Scott Mayfield, for sure.
Yeah, Brian, I think that's a great point that you brought up, because, Noah Dobson was kind of supposed to make us all forget about Devon Taves this year.
Right.
And it seems like, whether it's, coincidence or not, or it really does tie in, but it seems like since he came back from that little, COVID protocol that he was on for a little while, he kind of wasn't the same player that he was in the beginning. So I think there's some merit to that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you think he's going to end up finding his way. Hopefully it's sooner than later, because the playoffs are coming, but you think he's still got a shot at being the player that everybody hopes he's going to be.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that this is going to be huge for him to get some playoff experience, regardless of how the Islanders fare this postseason. It's always going to benefit a young player and even veteran guys to just have a taste of this. But no, in particular, being a younger guy, the fact that he's going to go through this for the first time, Wallstrom too. I don't think Wallstrom is going to come out of the lineup in the playoffs. I know fans are worried about that. I know fans are worried about that, but I think that it's crucial for these younger players to get a taste of this, just to have long-term success.
All right, so you took you put the answer out there already. I was going to ask you if you thought Wallstrom was going to dress game one.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just keep on him for a second. Have you seen his game grow throughout the season here? Because he's been in and out of the lineup. Barry's had the shorter lease with him a little bit too. Have you liked what you've seen out of him as the season has progressed? He put a couple of assists on the board last night. What do you see out of Ollie?
I think the most important thing, Shawnee, is that he's not afraid to shoot the puck. And the fact that these games in the playoffs are going to be 2-1, 3-2, these are not going to be track meets. I don't think so anyway, especially with the way the Islanders like to play. So you've got to get the puck on the net and hope for a second chancer. Ollie has that shot, man. I mean, some of those have been, just ridiculous shots.
Yeah.
He looks like he's been playing this league for a long time with that shot. So it's crucial for him to shoot the puck more. It's crucial for a lot of these guys. I mean, look at Brock's goals the other night. Right in front of the net, bang, bang. I mean, that's without Anders Lee, that element has been missing since the moment Anders went down. So they've got to get back to that. They've got to get more pucks to the net. That's the only way that they're going to have any success in the playoffs.
Talking with Brian Compton on the line, brought to you by our friends over at Tie Technology. If you can notice, Sean is wearing one of the wonderful Tie Technology shirts that we were sent to.
That's
us.
right.
So very nicely done, even if the microphone is covering our wonderful sponsors.
Right, I'm trying to situate myself. So
now when do you guys get Manscaped shirts? Are those in the mail or what?
They actually are, Brian. They are.
Along with the trimmers.
Along with the trimmers and boxer shorts.
Yeah.
That's true.
Good for it.
T-shirts and boxer shorts. Now, you probably won't see the boxer shorts live on the air here at Hockey Night.
This is my last time doing the show, if you guys
Yeah, we're going to have a talk afterwards. We're going to figure out. No, they're not going to be on the show. But, yeah, we got some stuff coming. So we're going to be able to have some testimonials come next week. So we're going to have some fun with that. Yeah.
That's good.
Okay?
I promised myself I wouldn't make any jokes to Christian about this, and I'm going to stick to it. I'm not going to say it.
I can imagine that's really difficult for you right now.
It is so hard. But I'm
yeah.
going to do it. I'm not going to say anything.
I'm actually at a loss for words right now. I'm very flustered. God Lord, we have to do a live read later on the program.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Fascinating. On the line, brought to you by our friends at Tie Technology. Brian Compton with us from NHL.com. B-Comp, obviously, with the playoffs now here, basically, Islanders essentially set. I mean, I think they're going to end up playing Pittsburgh regardless of how those last couple games play out. But when you look at a series between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Washington Capitals, Brian, let's say, kind of play devil's advocate here and say there's still a chance that one of these two teams switches spots, or even Boston. Who, in your mind, is the team that you think the Islanders match up best going into the postseason, knowing all the Islanders' kind of flaws that they've had over the last really month and a half?
For me, it always comes down to goaltending. And I think the Islanders have the edge regardless of who they play. Varley is having a Vezina type of season. He really, really is. And he's certainly going to get the nod in game one. I don't think there's any dispute about that. So the Penguins have given them trouble. So it's going to be tough no matter who they play. And for whatever reason, guys, I don't have the record in front of me, but Peter Laviolette has had a ton of success against Barry Trotz. I don't know what the reasoning is behind it. Christian, you probably remember this. There was a game, I think it was last year, pre-pandemic. Nashville, I think he was still coaching the Predators. Nashville came in and just pumped like 7 or 8 goals. Like they just crushed them. So for whatever reason, Lavi's had a lot of success against Barry. Doesn't mean it's going to translate into the playoffs. But, it's going to be tough regardless of who they play. Malkin is obviously healthy now for the Penguins. Dumoulin's back for those guys. But for me, I think they have a fighting chance regardless of who they play, just because Varlamov has been head and shoulders above either of these guys. So we'll see.
I do remember that game, actually, because then the next game, the Islanders traveled to Boston, and Barry was not thrilled, and he mentioned it in the morning skate. And That was a story for a little bit. But I do remember that. I do remember that, actually.
Something happened in that game, too. I think Lavi kept his first power play unit late in the game.
I remember that.
Barry was not happy afterwards. It was like, oh, boy.
B-Comp, with all of this in mind, we very famously remember you were the only person at NHL.com to pick the Islanders to make the playoffs a couple of years ago, and this and that. And I'm curious now. I want to put you on the spot a little bit. Everyone, before really the last month and a half, everyone was talking about the Islanders being a Stanley Cup contender, a Stanley Cup team that would be there in the Cup final. In your mind, is this a team right now, knowing what's happened over the last couple of weeks, is this a team that's still a legitimate Stanley Cup contender?
I can't say no because I picked them to go to the final before the season started, but I got to tell you, I'm wavering a little bit just because it just seems like it's taking them a long time to figure out who they are offensively. There doesn't seem to be a ton of chemistry once you get past Bo Brock and Bailey. Leo seems to be, like I said, the fit next to Matthew on the left side. And if Jordan Eberle, I know he got one last night. If he doesn't score, and Barzal has not really scored a ton this year. I know he leads them in points, but he needs to put more pucks in there. So if these guys can build off what we saw last night, and if Varley can be the goalie that he's been over the course of the regular season, I think that they can still go on a decent run. And I think game one is probably going to give us at least somewhat of a gauge if they can, exercise the demons of how they played on the road. Because let's face it, they just have not been good away from the Coliseum this year.
What do you think is the X factor then for this team? What is the biggest thing, or one particular player, I guess you could say, that will be the difference maker for the Islanders being a Cup contender or God forbid, a first round or a second round exit?
You know what, Christian? I think you guys would agree with me too. The fourth line has not been the same this year. I just haven't seen them play. I brought this up with Barry after the game Thursday night. That had a preseason feel to it, even though it was a game where they were trying to, get back on track after losing those games in Buffalo.
Right.
And you just didn't see those three guys bring the energy that they're relied on to bring in those kinds of situations in particular. So that's another thing that has to happen in the playoffs if they're going to go on a run. Those three guys have to figure it out. To think that Casey Cizikas, that first year when Barry was coaching these guys, scored 20 goals. And now you don't even see him even as a threat offensively, really whatsoever. He's not even getting chances. So that's something else that has to change in the playoffs. So the Islanders are going to go on a run.
I'm with you there, Brian. And before we let you go, we're going to try something new with you, with some of our guests here. Yeah, don't worry. Don't be scared.
You should be scared.
It's called the random question that we're going to do with some of our guests here on Hockey Night in New York. And Christian and I, being such admirers of your fandom of the band Kiss, we have a question for you. And that is, what is the least worst Kiss song in their awful library?
Are you asking me what my favorite Kiss song is? Is that the random question?
Yeah, that's the random question.
Because you insulted them, so I
had to.
You're ticking me off here, fellas.
I could insult them much worse. Sean did a very polite job of talking about the band.
He
Kiss
did. I know you would have been way more obnoxious. I know.
I was gearing up to do it, and then you started talking.
Yeah, I bounce back and forth. My favorite is a song called "Lover All I Can." I kind of like the songs that they don't play live more than the songs that they do play live. They don't get enough credit for how good those early studio albums were. So "Lover All I Can," which is off "Trust to Kill," that is my favorite Kiss song.
What is that song that I tried to recall? That Kiss song about partying all the time or something like that. I couldn't remember what the name of the song was.
Rock and Roll All Night.
Rock and Roll All Night. That's basically every Kiss song. They all sound the same.
There's no way you didn't know that.
I did. I just wanted to insult
okay,
him.
all right. That's like your cup of coffee.
No, that I didn't know.
Yeah,
that I didn't know. And again, we've got confirmation that I'm not the only one who didn't know that. Right. But Brian Compton from NHL.com joining us here on the line, brought to you by our friends over at Tide Technology. B-Comp, always appreciate you having you on, buddy. We really do appreciate the time. I know there's a lot better things you'd rather be doing on a Sunday night than being insulted by us about your love of a terrible, terrible, terrible band. But
you are not kidding, my friend. You are not kidding.
But we appreciate it. And hey, Brian, look forward to next week, because next week you can hear me talk about how I used a Manscaped lawnmower 4.0 on my nether region.
If that's not reason to tune in, I don't know what it is.
If that's not a reason to sign off right now, I don't know what.
Brian, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for giving us time, especially on the Mother's Day holiday. Have a great rest of your Sunday night. We'll talk to you soon, pal, all right?
Anytime, fellas. Thanks for
Take
having
care,
me. Take
brother.
care.
All right, folks. That was the great Brian Compton. Always
on the
love
rails.
having him on the show. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we actually had some people in the audience saying they're off the rails already, and they're
Well, no,
probably
that was
not
that was
wrong.
before when I was laughing.
Oh, right. Well, yeah. I mean, you
you
had
mentioned the
giggles.
manscape, and I just started laughing again.
Right. No, I know. It's like, you know, you're almost 30 now, pal. So like we can only use this young youth excuse for so long. Like you gotta, you know, get it together a little bit here. I mean, you had the giggles last week for about a minute straight, you know, and you know, you gotta try to, you know, compose yourself here. We got a show to run.
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Wasn't
Good
paying
talk.
attention. Were you saying something?
Yeah, I was. I
sorry.
was scolding you on the air.
I wasn't listening.
That's good. That's fine. So Brian Compton, everybody, big thanks to him for joining us. Let's get back to the Islander talk here. And we talked about Semyon Varlamov. I think we're all in agreement that he's going to start game one, even though Sorokin has been playing very well this year. Are you okay?
I was readjusting myself for the camera.
Okay. So let's keep it on the goal
But
list
yes,
for a second.
Semyon Varlamov, I think we can all kind of agree that he's earned that starter role heading into the postseason, and I think it's great though if you're an Islander fan or if you've been watching this team all season. I think it's great that to even have the conversation that Ilya Sorokin can be kind of a legitimate player in the playoffs and someone that you could say, well, he kind of has earned a shot to start a game in the postseason. Now, again. Yeah, if they need it, yeah, if it got to that point, yeah. But that's the point. Like you want to be able to have that conversation now and realize, well, if he's this good now, how good he's going to be down the line if he keeps up the consistent play that he's had this season in his rookie year. So I think that's a positive sign. But Semyon Varlamov has played lights out, and I think that the fact that he's played the way he has against every team from the Rangers to the Capitals to Boston to everyone in between, that's a great sign because these are teams that the Islanders need to beat. And, you know, when you have a goaltender playing basically at the same top-notch level against the best team in the division and the worst teams in the division, that's a good sign.
Yeah, and Brian made a great point. I mean, you can literally ride a hot goalie to the Stanley Cup. You really can. And Semyon Varlamov is one of those guys that can fit that mold.
Yeah.
So even if the scoring struggles continue and they have to squeak out
keeps
wins
them in every game.
1-0, 2-1, he does. And, you know, he's going to be a huge part of this playoff run. He was last year. He was a huge part of it. I mean, he's been pretty damn tremendous since he came over. And he even upped the ante again this year with again, this Vezina quality season that he's had. I'd be completely baffled if he was not at least nominated for the trophy. He may not win it, but I would like to think he's going to get nominated. But speaking of trophies, and what I wanted to kind of move this into was that the Islanders have a chance of grabbing another Jennings trophy here with Varlamov and Sorokin.
Wow. Way to go there, buddy.
Reset. Reboot.
No, I mean, it's a great thing because when we talk about what makes the Islanders successful, it's always defensive. We start with the defensive unit, and there's no better and bigger and more important defender when it comes to any hockey team than its goaltender. And you talk about that on the penalty kill and everything else. It's always the goaltender is the most important penalty killer. The goaltender is the most important defender. And that speaks volumes for the system that the Islanders play because we all know the Islanders do not score a ton of goals most nights, and it's going to be a 3-2, 2-1, 1-0 kind of affair. And you're going to need your goaltenders to step up in those big spots, just like you were saying, Shawnee. And that's what they've done all year for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they've bailed them out in games where, you know, the scoring was not when it was hard to come by.
Yeah.
You know,
when the scoring was not there.
Right,
is
literally not there. So it's going to be huge for them. And I think that's going to be the key matchup for them. You talk about the X factor, and it's going to be their goaltending. It really is. That's going to
I think their X factor is going to be the power play.
Well, I mean,
because I think we've seen it this season. Sorry, not to get off track, but we've seen it this season where, I mean, not that it's cost them games, but big power play opportunities that weren't capitalized have ended up haunting them.
Their power play wasn't great last year either, and they were able to go to the Eastern Conference Finals without it. I mean, it's not like you really.
But you
look
had
back.
those guys scoring, like you had the Eberleys and the Baileys and the Barzal's finding the back of the net at certain points.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, look, you can definitely make an argument up and down the lineup as for what your X factor is, you know. But they're all going to play a big part. The goaltending, the special teams, the PK could end up being an X factor.
Yeah,
because
it's played so well.
If they play against these, offensive powerhouses like Pittsburgh and Washington, they're going to have to keep those guys off the score sheet when they take penalties. They're going to have to stay out of the penalty box.
And the Islanders have had a lot of success, really, for the most part, over the course of the season against Washington on the penalty kill.
Right. Right, so it's all going to come into play, and they just got to hope that they can look here. This was the key to their season last year, at least their playoff run, and pretty much to this team. The way this team is made up, they have to beat teams 5-on-5. Mm-hmm. That's just how it has to go. 100%. They're not going to beat them in the special teams. They're not. They're not going to out-power play anybody in these playoffs unless these 7 to 8 potential days of practice that they get are just miraculous. Otherwise, they're going to be, at best, mediocre, probably run-of-the-mill on the power play. So they got to get their 5-on-5 back together. And that's why I expressed concern after those games they blew to the Capitals, not too long ago, because the Caps matched them 5-on-5.
Right.
And they clamped down on them 5-on-5. So, that made me a little, I don't want to say nervous, but concerned about what that matchup may look like.
It made you nervous.
Sure, whatever adjective you want to use to get us through this segment, but
us through. Wow. Okay.
But they're gonna have to get that 5-on-5 game back, and again, you have Brian even mentioning the fourth line with Cizikas and those guys contributing some goals and some points. So there's a lot of things that have to fall into place. It doesn't mean that they won't or they can't. They've definitely proven over the course of this year that they can rattle off 12 wins in a row or 9 wins in a row, whatever the case may be. So it's just that they got to get those gears back in place again, and it's going to have to be with some of these new guys that they brought in, again, to a lesser extent Zajac, but definitely Palmieri. He's going to have to be a factor here in these playoffs if they want to go far.
Oh, 100%, and that's why, like I was saying earlier in the program, it was so important for him to get going in these last couple games, and why that effort in the game against New Jersey the other night was such a crucial one.
Yeah,
and now you have this last game against Boston up next, where it may or may not mean something depending on how much value you put in finishing third over fourth. And if Boston's taking it as seriously as they, you'd imagine they may or may not be because of where they stand in the regular season.
You don't know who they want to play, who they want to face. Yeah. I mean, look, they might come all out because they still think they have a chance at the 2 spot. They can't get
right.
I mean, they can't get the 1 spot anymore. Pittsburgh clinched that, but we'll see. Well, tomorrow night's going to be interesting. If both teams are taking it easy or what, maybe
that snooze fest.
It gives you an idea of maybe who they think they match up better with. Because it reminds me of the 2016 season, right, where
Capuano rested his guys the last couple games, and
everyone
was up in arms about it, and then they got Florida, and it ended up being the best thing that they could have asked for because they beat Florida in 6 games.
Hard to argue with how it went, for sure. So tomorrow night will be very interesting. And some other interesting things going on with the Islander franchise I wanted to talk about real quick is Bridgeport. Looks like they have a rebranding coming.
Yeah, they've been teasing this all week long, basically, this weird reboot.
Yes, it has been drawn out.
And they've kind of interlaid, like it started that Tuesday or Monday. I forget what day it was. The day of it was Tuesday. The day of their last regular season
some glitches in the social media.
But then there were like these little, like if you looked at the little glitch in the stay tuned, there were little interlays of like hints of what was coming.
Yeah.
Bridge Sound Tigers not found .ex and all these different little things. And someone pointed out, and I retweeted it earlier, a string of their photos actually on one of them was that, and I think Sean, we were texting back and forth that day about it, but that B with what looked to be Islanders kind of under the letter B.
Yes.
And that seemed to be interlaid onto a picture from their last game of the regular season that they had put somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where those images had come from, but it seems that they're hinting at some sort of name change involving the Islanders. And
it looks like they're going to be the Bridgeport Islanders.
Right.
That's what it looks like. The B, it looks like it's made out of a stick. It's got the stick there, kind of like the Y and the NY for the Islanders. So I guess they're just going uniform here with the branding. They're going to make the farm team same name, kind of like the Bruins do with the Providence Bruins. Okay. I mean, sure. I don't, it doesn't really affect me either way. Yeah. But it looks like that's what's coming. Bridgeport Islanders.
Yes.
Coming soon to a Connecticut hockey team near you.
Connecticut Hockey Arena near you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which would be Webster Bank Arena.
Yeah. I guess the only strange thing is that Bridgeport isn't on an island. But,
Yeah, I don't know.
But, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So there you go. There's
Providence
your Bridgeport
doesn't have
update.
Bears. I mean, what's the difference?
I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. They might, though. They might have some bears in the woods.
I don't know.
They might. I don't know. I don't keep track of the animals of the Northeast region. I don't. It doesn't really matter to me. Much like basketball, football, and baseball.
Yes.
All right, moving
as
on.
You've clearly and most pop culture references, as you've proven time and time again.
Some. Yes, it's true. So I'll hold this for later. A little around the league. Game recaps real quick. We already talked about it a little bit. You had the 4-2 loss against Buffalo, and then on Monday, Tuesday, you have the shootout loss. I guess they played a little better.
Right.
They got a point, and they get the loss Thursday against Jersey. They get booed by their adoring fans, and then last night they get the 5-1 win. Like you said, they could finally get some goals on the board. Hopefully, that leads to more goals to come heading into the postseason.
Yes.
Great. You agree?
Yeah.
Okay, you got nothing to say.
I mean, this is all stuff we've touched upon for the last 40 minutes. So
I suppose. All right. So looking ahead, Boston tomorrow.
Yes.
The playoffs.
That's it. Looking ahead, Boston.
No, there's nothing.
Tomorrow.
I know. I'm like I said it. I'm like Ron Burgundy. I look at the notes and I basically say out loud whatever's on the piece of paper. You should probably interfere with it one day, and I'll probably say something awful there.
But
Ron Burgundy.
Boston is the next game and last game on the regular season schedule, and then we'll go from there. We don't know when the playoffs are going to start. We've heard Saturday. We've heard Sunday. It could very well be that they're waiting for the North Division to finish. Who knows at this point? But right now, the Islanders. What we do know, the Islanders will be in the playoffs by Tuesday or Wednesday. I believe we'll probably have a better picture of who they'll end up playing in the playoffs.
Right.
And then they will spend the rest of the time prepping for that specific team. And I think there is some interesting correlation between the Islanders and Penguins playing this potentially final. Well, this would be the final playoff series at the Nassau Coliseum, so I can't even put the term potential in there. But the last playoff series at the Nassau Coliseum, considering the history those two teams have, when you think about the 2013 playoff series between the Islanders and Pittsburgh Penguins, and how that was kind of one of the first turning points for the organization, and getting to where they've got now, and then obviously their sweep of the Pittsburgh Penguins a couple years ago in Barry Trotz's first year, when Brian Compton famously was the only person to pick the Islanders to make it to the postseason.
Stuck his neck out a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, that's
but that's I'm sorry, but I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's okay.
But considering this is the final year at the Nassau Coliseum and the significance, and not even mentioning the fact that the Islanders have a very rich history against the Penguins in the playoffs, 1993, and so on and so forth. So I think it's almost fitting that if this is the team they're going to face, Pittsburgh in the first round kind of seems to fit the historical bill that you would want for kind of this last season at the Nassau Coliseum at the old barn.
Sure, why not? And that lets me go back to my initial pick of who I wanted to see in the first round of the playoffs. So sure, Pittsburgh. Let's see them. Let's see what happens.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, why not?
Nothing more.
It doesn't matter.
All right.
It doesn't matter. So that's the landscape.
Wow. Okay.
That's the landscape coming ahead for the Islanders. So now it's time to talk about Manscaped. So the Manscaped below the waist Manscaped are the below the waist grooming champions of the world.
I want to point out you're the one that's already laughing right off the bat.
Who just released their brand new Lawnmower 4.0 for all your manscaping needs to make sure your playoff beards are only where they should be. I mean, look, it's 2021. You got to make sure that the playoff beards are only where they should be. So it's waterproof. You can manscape in the shower. It's got an LED light. You can manscape in the dark. It's got a travel lock so you can manscape on the go. Christian, you might be traveling to some games on the road this year for the playoffs, so bring the Lawnmower 4.0 with you.
Absolutely, and when you're on the road covering hockey games, you want to look your best from top to bottom, and certainly the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0 is a device that gives you that opportunity. Shawnee, speaking of traveling these days, nobody wants to take a trip down south and end up in an unruly forest. That was your line, which I really like. Most important for the Lawnmower 4.0 is the new feature is the ceramic blade with skin-safe technology to reduce grooming accidents for a smooth experience. And let's face it, guys, you don't want an accident when you're grooming that part of your body.
No, you don't.
And one of the
delicate.
coolest other features that this device has is the new wireless charger. Again, talk about traveling for those on the go, whether you're traveling to cover hockey games, whether you're traveling to follow your favorite team. If you want to go on the road and see the Islanders playing Pittsburgh or Washington or wherever they may go.
Or you go to the library.
Or go to the library. I don't know why you would go to the library to do this sort of thing, but sure. We don't encourage that, by the way. Don't go to the library and
Before you go to before you go to the library.
So another great feature, and Manscaped, the right tools for the job. And if you want 20% off, you can get the promo code or go to, I'm going to mess this up now.
Do it.
You're going to go 20% off plus free shipping using the promo code HockeyNightNY and go to manscaped.com. That's go to manscaped.com. And when you're placing your order, use the promo code HockeyNightNY when you're getting your lawnmower 4.0. That's 20% off, again, with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code HockeyNightNY. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
There you go, folks. Manscaped. Manscaped.com, 20% off, free shipping, promo code HockeyNightNY, and that's all their selections there. They also have a nose trimmer. It's called the Weed Whacker, of course, and plenty of other grooming products that we'll be talking about over the next couple of shows.
Absolutely.
So thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring Hockey Night in New York.
And, of course, they're sending us their new Lawnmower 4.0.
That's right. So we'll be able to offer testimonial starting next week.
First-hand experience, guys.
Yeah,
Look forward to it.
first-hand experience. So look forward to that. We're dreading it. No, we'll be fine. So with that out of the way, Christian, you want to swing it to the hero of the week?
Brought to you by the Blue and Deli half-price hero of the week.
That's right, pal. That's right. So let's do it. We'll go like this. We'll go like this. And when you hear the song, ladies and gentlemen, that means it's time for the Hero of the Week, brought to you by the Blue Line Deli Bagels Half-Price Hero, which this week is the Mr. Ledecky. It features turkey, ham, provolone, lettuce, tomato, and mustard on fresh rye bread. Get it half price all week, starting tomorrow. That's Monday through Sunday, where we'll announce a brand new half-off hero. Stop in and mention Hockey Night New York for half off the Mr. Ledecky. Christian, it doesn't really matter who goes first, but do you remember who goes first?
I think it's you, Sean, and I will let you speak for the two of us because our decision is unanimous this week.
Yes, it's true. We are in unison this week. We picked the same gentleman. So, with 2 goals last night versus Jersey, because, look, they lost every other game this week, so we didn't have a lot to choose from. Maybe you get an honorable mention in there that we can talk about, but this guy, for me, and I guess for Christian as well, is your hero of the week. 2 goals last night versus the Devils, 1 on the power play, 1 Mr. Broccoli Nelson. And so I guess we'll just push the button for you as well.
Please.
Brock Nelson.
Across the board.
Across the board. Unanimous. We're getting some other picks. We got Leo in the chat. We got Nelson in the chat. We got Bailey in the chat. Joe McGrath said no demos, please. No, there won't be any live on the air demos with Manscaped.
My inclination is always to give Leo Komarov my hero of the week, but I feel
we know this.
I feel like if I did, there'd be a riot outside the studio.
There could be. There could be. The Leo support only goes so far in the Islander fan base, and it doesn't go as far as you take it.
Yes. Well, Bo, and also Malorania.
Yes.
Bo is on a point streak, I believe. So he could have been in the conversation as well. But we felt Brock Nelson scoring 2 goals, really getting going. I think that serves as a bigger hero because it speaks to the bigger picture of what's going on with the Islanders.
It's the hero of this week.
Right.
He led them to a win. He had the game-winning goal last night. Yeah. He is not the hero of the point streak.
Well, I was going to give a much more elegant response than that, but you decided to jump in and talk nonsense.
Oh, it works. That's what we do here. That's what we do. So there you go. Brock Nelson, your Blue Line Deli and Bagel hero of the week, brought to you by the half-price hero of the week, the Mr. Ledecky. And, honorable mention to Oliver Wahlstrom. He had 2 assists last night. Yeah. He assisted on at least one of Brock's goals, the one on the power play.
And he had the assist on Kyle Palmieri's goal.
There you go. Big goal for Kyle, as we discussed. So let's see where we can take it from here, pal. I think oh, you know what? We got to talk around the league because something big happened on the way to Manhattan this week. And one Mr. Tom Wilson got himself in the headlines again. So why don't we talk about that?
Okay.
You look really psyched about it. I mean, I love the enthusiasm, Chris, and I'm so glad you're here.
As I said to Sean before the show, I actually kind of forgot about it because I was just over it. I think everyone's over it. I think everyone's over Tom Wilson, to be honest with you. The guy is what he is at this point, and you know what you're getting. And I think if you're the Islanders and you look at that series and you go, all right, well, you hope that if you end up playing the Washington Capitals, you're not getting the brunt of the Tom Wilson shenanigans like you've seen the last couple times the Islanders have played the Capitals in the postseason. But the Islanders are a team that's set up to have kind of that. They have guys that can kind of protect the guys that they need to be, the Oliver Wallstroms, the Matt Barzals, the Brock Nelsons. They have Ross Johnson. They have a Matthew Martin, and they have Cal Clutterbuck. Casey Zekas can play a great game. Even Thomas Hickey, if he can get in.
Sure.
He's a little ball of fire when he's out on the ice. So the guys,
one of the few guys that still throws a hip check out there.
Yeah, but Tom Wilson, I mean, nothing surprised you, I think, at this point, and nothing should surprise you with the reaction from the league or lack of reaction, considering how.
I don't know. I really thought they might do more than $5,000.
I mean, they've mollycoddled this guy his entire career. And
what's that about?
He's a good player. You can say what you want about the way he plays, but he's a talented
but
guy
other good players
on a
that
good
get
team.
Suspensions and whatnot. I mean, it's not like he's an untouchable. He's not near the level of the guys maybe you say.
But they've made him to be an untouchable. He's an untouchable because they don't penalize him from when he does shenanigans, and it probably won't be until someone gets seriously hurt that the league will have to step in and go, oh wow, we should have done something about this ages ago. And much like what the NHL usually does, they don't get on the ball until it's too late. So
and Islander fans were just as upset as Ranger fans when that all happened and when the fine came down.
I think Islander fans have seen the destruction that Tom Wilson can cause to their own personnel. Very famously, Lubomir Wisnowski was wiped out of the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, by Tom Wilson.
Yeah.
So, and that was Wisnowski was a fan favorite on the island when he was playing here.
He was playing great, yeah.
That was a pretty vicious hit, and you kind of remember the reaction between New York and Washington, and even the media coverage where, people in Washington were like, "Oh, it was just a regular play," and people in New York were calling for Tom Wilson's head. So there seems to be this disconnect, and kind of with everything that you see in the world nowadays, if you have a certain perspective, it's you think Tom Wilson is this great player that plays above board and doesn't do anything wrong. And I think there's a perspective outside of that when you're not in the Washington metro area that Tom Wilson is a player that doesn't play above board and lays dangerous hits and doesn't play a clean game of hockey. And I think, when you look at the way what he did to Buchnevich and when you look at what he did to Panarin, I think it's pretty clear what perspective is the right one and which perspective is the wrong one.
Yeah, I'm just as baffled as everybody else was. Okay.
But as someone put on Twitter, after it happened, 31 NHL general managers would take Tom Wilson in a heartbeat. And I think that speaks more to the culture and the need for change in the game of hockey than anything else, because that's as mad and upset as people were, that statement is 100% true.
It might be about those 31 GMs. I don't think it speaks for the fans of the NHL, though. You look at the outcry when the suspension came down. I mean, it was heavy, and it wasn't just in Ranger Town and Islander country. It would seem to be, it spread a little further throughout the league. And look, I mean, you can go down a list of guys like.
But you saw sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but you saw the report.
Doing a great job of that tonight.
You saw the report that came out from Frank Saravelli of TSN about how the Rangers, who put out a pretty strongly worded statement, and apparently that came from the top from James Dolan, but how the Rangers put out a pretty strong statement instead of galvanizing the other 30 teams around the league to rally behind the New York Rangers, they rallied behind Tom Wilson and George Peros, who has shown time and time again he just doesn't know what he's doing when it comes to policing the game of hockey. And I think that, again, the Tom Wilson hit is as clear a sign as any that they just don't take their job of protecting the players is second to preserving teams to have the players that they want on the ice.
It's been inconsistent for a long time. And this goes back to when Colin Campbell was running things. I mean, you remember the Wheel of Justice that they made way back when. I will say Shanahan did a decent job, and at least he made more of an effort to kind of dissect the why. He remember he did the videos, very dramatic.
Yes, yeah.
He would stand in front of the screen.
Yeah.
This is why we did that. This is what happened. This is a hockey player, whatever the case may be.
There was more transparency.
Yeah, for sure. So now it's kind of back to, here's our ruling, deal with it. You know what I mean? And you can understand why fans and perhaps players and coaching staffs and whatnot alike, can get upset about that, and especially when it's your guy that's on the bad end of it. You know what I mean? But look, and it's probably easy for fans to say, hey, look, if he was on my team and he did that, I wouldn't condone it. Sure. But I mean, a lot of people are biased, and it's sometimes in those moments, it's tough to look at it from an unbiased perspective and say, yeah, you know what he did was wrong, and he should be, penalized for it. You'd like to think people would, but when the guy's on your team, it's a little tougher to say.
Oh, 100%. But I think it speaks to the bigger issue, and something, I mean, I've talked about it at length on this podcast before, is that you want to know why hockey is where it is in the sports landscape? Here's just another example of why.
Yeah, it seems like it's behind. They have to improve things on this front.
Because if you're a casual sports fan and you watch someone basically mug someone twice and assault someone on the ice, and the worst they get is kicked out of the game for a short period of time and then fined $5,000.
Right, and you look at what the aftermath is for the other team. Panarin ends up getting hurt for the rest of the season. I mean, look, their season was over, but it doesn't matter. The guy got hurt. The guy was physically injured.
Yeah.
Forget about how it affects the team on the ice. The guy just caused somebody to be injured, right? And it's a bad look with what he did to Buchnevich as well. So, yeah, I mean, I just was floored when it was just $5,000. I mean, I don't know if I could sit here and tell you what the right amount was, whether it's money or whether it's games or whatnot, but $5,000 means absolutely nothing. It wasn't a punishment at all. It really wasn't. It was like, all right, I guess we got to do something.
Right.
$5K. Which is basically 3 cents to anybody, to us on the show or whomever else, right? So it doesn't make a damn of a difference. But
that's why I'm over talking about it, because at this point nothing's changing. Like, it happened. Wilson got his fine. He probably paid it, and that's it. And nothing's going to change with this league.
Right, but I mean, look, depending on what you believe, there was quite the aftermath of this whole situation, specifically with the New York Rangers. The statement comes out. You say it seems like it came down from Dolan. That seems to be the word on the street. And they end up firing their present general manager, JD, who, for him, he was only, with the organization 2 years. Gordon maybe a little bit longer. But look, these guys get fired. They're out. Everybody watching the New York Rangers thought they were on the way to being a good team.
Right.
I've been saying it for a long time. Next year, maybe the year after, they're going to be a real tough team in the Metro Division, assuming we end up back there. And these guys are getting canned, and the statement they put out is that, the performance on the ice, the rebuild is taking too long. I don't believe that for a second. It has everything to do with being on board with that statement. And it seems like they weren't, and James Dolan was like, my team, you're either on board or you're not. I'll see you guys later.
I mean, I think if I'm the Rangers, Ranger fan, I should say, the bigger concern is now the prospect of James Dolan being as heavy-handed with the Knicks, as with the Rangers, as he's been with the Knicks, and the involvement with the organization, and why things are the way they are, and why you look at a guy like Kevin Durant and James Harden and Kyrie Irving in the NBA, and why they would choose to go to Brooklyn over a team like the New York Knicks and play in Madison Square Garden. So if I'm the Ranger fan, that is what my concern is now. That's that there's going to be some meddling, and that these rash decisions that when we talk about teams building and getting to where they should be, there is not as much patience, especially in the New York market, for something like that for the two Garden teams.
The few Ranger fans that I've spoken to about it so far are not happy.
Yeah,
not happy at all.
Davidson and Gordon were doing a very good job.
They were doing an excellent job. You hate to say it, yes, we're all.
I don't hate to say it. I don't care.
Well, you don't care. I'm speaking to the audience, because it's an Islander fan audience. They were doing a good job. The Rangers were on their way to being a good team. They absolutely were. They were finally building through the draft. They were building with youth. They weren't doing the whole we'll just sign whatever free agent we want thing. I mean, they did it with Panarin, but but not as heavy as they used to. And they're starting to build a team that's probably going to be good for a long time. Now, if this whole thing with Dolan blowing it up and Drury coming in derails that, it's a shame. You hate to see it, but I mean, what's going on over there, pal? Are you okay?
My mic shifted.
All right, your mic shifted. All right, fair enough. So
it was coming off. I didn't want it to fall off mid sentence. All of a sudden,
you've been very entertaining these last 2 weeks. I mean, nothing's going to top last week.
No.
That was phenomenal. That was fantastic. I missed that. That was a good time. I had a lot of fun watching that. It was great.
Well, I'm glad someone did.
So Christian, I think now it's time. It's part of the show where I plug RJ Daniels. You go through the chat and see if we have any listener or viewer questions, and then we'll answer some. I think that's a good way to go here. We good on the Ranger drama?
Yeah.
We're good on the Ranger drama. Okay, folks, if you can't make it to the game, whether it's at home or whether it's on the road, and you need to watch the game somewhere, RJ Daniels in Rockville Center is the place to be. So, they have plenty of special spots.
Why are you laughing?
Because I lost my place. I'm laughing at myself. I could do a better job.
Get it together.
Yeah, seriously. So $5 16-ounce Barn Rocker Ales, $14 Bud Light pitchers, $17 domestic buckets, $4 domestic bottles or pints. Plenty of food specials as well. They have a separate menu. Great stuff on there. They'll have the sound on for the game, so if you're looking for a spot to watch a playoff game, that's where it's going to be. Great stuff going on over there. Head on down to 279A Sunrise Highway in Rockville Center from pregame until the final horn, whichever comes first. And also, as far as RJ Daniels go, and now a lot of things have to bend the right way because we don't know what's going on with the schedule yet, but there have been some discussions. We may do some sort of live event there, maybe a pregame show if things, again, bend the right way. It depends on scheduling. It depends on whether the Islanders are on the road or not, what day of the week. But we got some things in the work behind the scenes here. We're hoping we can do some kind of live event. We will obviously keep you guys posted. You'll be the first to know. Plug it on the show here. We'll plug it on social media. So keep your eyes out for that. We'll let you guys know. So with that out of the way, Christian, give me some awesome questions from our viewers.
I got nothing.
Again?
Yeah.
That's a lie. I saw some questions in there.
My chat only goes to a certain point.
That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense.
I had to refresh.
Okay, well,
so I can only go back till about 8:20.
So okay, so you have nothing. This is such a failure on your part. We're gonna blame you for this. So I think, all right, question: Has Bellows? Why don't you look at the top? I'll give you this one now. Has Bellows fallen out of?
I can't look at the top.
All right, I'll look at the top.
Yeah, you have to look at the top.
I'm gonna read this question. You're gonna field it, and then I'm gonna look at the top. Has Bellows fallen out of good grace with Trotz? Surprised to see him rest so many guys, but not cycle him in.
Yeah,
Take it
that
away.
was interesting. I'm a bit surprised, too, but especially since Trotz, for the most part, has talked about how Kiefer Bellows was going to be such a big part of the Islanders' playoff push. So has he fallen out? I mean, I guess one of the tough things now with Palmieri in the mix, with Zajac in the mix, with some guys that are already established here, Michael Dal Cole, Kiefer Bellows kind of lost his spot as far as where he's going to get into the lineup and as quickly as he's going to get into the lineup. I think that was pretty clear. I asked Barry a couple times about that during the course of the season, and it wasn't a matter of him wanting to get him back into the lineup. It's a matter of if he's playing well enough or if there's the room to get him back in. And I think the depth chart now with what the Islanders have moves Bellows further down than I think we would have all imagined he'd be at this point during the season. But again, Bellows hasn't played as well as I think a lot of people would have liked to see him play.
Yeah, I think the only way we see him in the playoffs is if the Islanders are really struggling, which obviously would be a bad sign. Maybe go down, a couple games or whatever the case may be, or there's injuries. I think that's really the only way he gets cycled in. Now, that being said, he'll dress game one, but that seems the way it typically goes. Now, we have a question here from Joe_McGrath1. Can top-line Leo play his normal agitator role in the playoffs while on Barzal's wing, or is he going to have to play it straight? It's a good question.
I think he can play that agitator. I mean, you're not changing your game in the playoffs, and the one thing that Barry Trotz and we've also talked about is that this is an Islander team that's built to play in the playoffs, and I think that role suits the Islanders and organizations better in the postseason more than it does in the regular season because you're going to need to kind of have that grit and kind of have that toughness to your lines, each and every one of them during the playoffs, because these series are going to be grinds. We talked about it the other week. These are teams that are very, very, very familiar with each other. The Islanders are not seeing it's not like the Islanders during a regular season see Washington 4 times a year. They've seen them 8 times a year, and they've seen them pretty regularly 8 times a year. So or Pittsburgh. So there is no secret here, and it's going to be a grinding game, a grinding battle between these two teams in the postseason. These are not going to be games where you're winning kind of on skill and these blowout games that we've seen during the course of the regular season.
Right you are, Christian. Right you are.
Are you even listening?
No, I was scanning for questions. But the viewers were and the listeners were, and that's the most important part. So
I would also like to answer Joe's question from probably like a half hour ago.
Okay, go for it. So there were questions.
No, well, it wasn't a question. It was a sarcastic remark.
Okay.
It was him asking, is it just me or is Christian's facial hair freshly sculpted on the same night they unveil a new sponsor? Coincidence? I think not. To answer that question, no, it's not freshly sculpted. This is the same scruff that's been there since.
See, sitting in Christian's presence here, I can see it in a little more detail. Not freshly sculpted. No, it's not. It's not. But you know what? It might be next week. because you got the right tools for the job now.
That's right.
You will have the right tools for the
Yeah.
job in a couple of days. So that'll happen. Man, we're really plugging here. Here's a question.
What is Panarin thinking now? Probably wished he signed with the Isles. He came to the Rangers because of JD. I don't know.
Do we know that? Do we know he went to the Rangers because of JD?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
I mean, at the same time, I don't necessarily know if he's regretting it. I think that, listen, in hindsight's 2020. Also, you have to mention if you're the Islanders, you would have been playing without Panarin for at least a couple games this year, considering the fact that
Oh, right, the overseas issues.
the overseas issues that
Yes.
occurred. So
and JG Pajot would not be in New York Islanders either.
Listen, I think hindsight is 2020, and I think at this point, who cares if he does he wish he signed with the Islanders? Does he not wish he signed with the Islanders? The fact of the matter is he didn't, and right now, at least for the last couple of years, the Islanders have been better off with the rosters that they've put together and the way they've molded them together. So maybe it was a good thing for the Islanders.
You never know. It's weird how that stuff can shake out. We have a question from Mel Armenia 22. Do you think in the offseason, do we move Ladd? I don't know. Is anybody going to take him? Probably not. I think maybe we see something similar to what happened with Johnny Boychuk this previous offseason. Maybe they find a way to put him on LTIR. I don't know what else they're going to really be able to do. You know? I mean, look, they almost had the deal with Minnesota for Parise.
Right.
So I guess it's possible to move him, but you know, I think they might have to get a little more creative. I don't know if anybody's going to take him in a trade, especially now with the flat cap and the way everything's changed now. Like, who's going to take on that contract?
Seattle.
Okay, maybe.
I mean,
If there's an out, maybe that's the one.
Well, who knows? You're right. Who knows? There's a lot of ifs. Maybe try and work a deal with Seattle. Maybe, there is a trade to be made if there's some movement with the cap and there's a team that wants to, protect someone and then they can, there's with the expansion draft the way it is and kind of the wackiness of the offseason, I'm sure there will be some solutions to that issue. It's just a matter of figuring out what they will be. And I think Seattle plays a role in that. And I think the structure of the salary cap next year plays a role in that.
I do have faith that Lamoriello probably will do something to get either all or a good portion of that contract off of his hands. I do think you're on the right track with Seattle. Yeah. I do. I think if there is a way, that's probably the way to do it, whether it's a trade or whether it's, coaxing Ron Francis into taking him like Garth Snow did with J.F. Berube,
right.
Way back when. So, I mean, that's going to be interesting. But look, he figured a way out of the cap, to an extent going into this year, getting, with the Boychuk situation.
Right.
I mean, there still was a casualty. They didn't want to trade Devon Toews, and they still had to. So hopefully we don't see a similar situation going into next year. But, thankfully that's not a worry for right now because this team's trying to win a Stanley Cup.
Urix98 asked, did Ladd actually play in Bridgeport? I believe he did play a couple games down in Bridgeport this year. Not a ton. Also, Bridgeport only played.
He's been with the taxi squad, right?
He's on the Bridgeport.
Oh, he has.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I believe he played a couple games down in Bridgeport. They were only played a 24-game season. It wasn't like there was a lot of options, and I think the Islanders are more concerned with getting their, the prospects that they hope to one day have or make an impact in the NHL, get them more playing time than anything else.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But he did get playing time.
Yeah, and that weird Bridgeport season's over now, right? They played their last game.
Yep.
The season against 2 teams only.
Yes.
Is over. Yeah. We'll
Yeah, remember when I said they started promoting this update or reboot after their final regular season game?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So once again, guilty of not listening to you, Christian. Trying to keep everything together over here. Trying to run the show. A lot of technical stuff going on over here.
About right.
So I think that covers us for the questions.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we're good. So I think, outside of that, just want to remind everybody that we got some brand new swag over at HockeyNightNY.com. Yes. We got some shirts. We got some fancy hats. You can check them out. If you like what you see, you can get 10% off with promo code HNINY10. And I think from there, we can play the music here and head on out. Yeah? So, want to send a big thanks to Brian Compton of NHL.com for joining us for an excellent spot tonight, as always. Want to send a huge thanks to our sponsors, Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington. Head on over for great food, great service, and great people. Check out the menu at BlueLineDeli.com for their great selections and hockey-themed heroes. A huge thanks to Tide Technology, a voice-over IP company providing phone services for businesses across the country. Check them out at tidetechnology.com for all your telecom needs, or give them a call at 516-856-7800 and get 3 free months of service. 3 free months of service. And of course, a big thanks to our brand new sponsor, Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with promo code HockeyNightNY at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use code HockeyNightNY. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. And of course, a big thanks to you guys for checking us out here at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY, and a big thanks to everybody listening on your favorite podcast providers. If you're not checking us out on Twitch yet, please do so. And of course, if you enjoy the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast provider. Tell your friends, spread the word. Follow Christian at CAArnold01 on Twitter. Follow myself at Seany Hockey. Follow the show on all social media platforms at HockeyNightNY. For Christian Arnold, my name is Sean Cuthbert. We've been Hockey Night in New York. We'll keep you updated if we do a live event for the playoffs, but the playoffs are coming. The big games are coming. Let's see some big wins, some big games from the New York Islanders. In any case, we'll be talking about it. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
See you later.